Steve Bowers welcoming you to Dialogue here at E Plus TV 6 and a special Willie X Evans edition of Nashville and Parts Unknown, and a very special guest, Keith Sykes. And Willie, how did you get about setting this up?
Well, you know what? Every time I have asked this gentleman to come on, he has been so gracious. I mean, he's just the most gracious guy I know. When you need somebody to come on and talk a little bit about what they've done, this is the man to get, because he's done it all, man. He's done it all. Wow. I remember seeing him in Memphis at some club downtown or somewhere years ago, and you know, all of a sudden I hear "I'm Not Strange," and that's it. It's all on after that.
Oh, wow.
The whole thing, Mr. Keith Sykes.
Keith Sykes. Yeah, you know, if you're walking down Beale Street, Keith's got a note on Beale Street, and that doesn't come easy. You know.
No.
Keith, it's good to have you with us.
I appreciate you having me very much.
Yeah. Life started for you where? Kentucky, I understand. Is that right?
It all started in a small womb in Kentucky.
Okay, there we go. Start with it. So you went to Memphis when?
1957. My mother moved us down here, and the number one record was Great Balls of Fire. And I remember him saying, that was recorded here in Memphis. And I thought, what is recording?
Okay.
Because, you know, when you're just 9 years old, you know, you don't know a lot about all the ins and outs of the music business, of course, unless you're born into it. But I knew that just right off the bat that Memphis must be an exciting music place, because there's always so much of it going on here.
Keith, I was born in Athens, Alabama, went to high school in Decatur, had an opportunity to interview Rick Hall, and I bought those Arthur Alexander records. I had no idea they were recorded in Florence, right down the road.
Yeah, same way, you know, I didn't know. I didn't know Booker T and the MGs was from Memphis. I just bought their records. You know?
So you get moved to Memphis, which turns out to be a great decision on the part of your mother, as far as your life is concerned. So how did the music start for you?
Well, really, you know, I couldn't get into any other way. So I wanted to be a drummer in sixth grade. They came around and asked if we wanted to be in the band. Of course, I said, yeah, what do you want to do? Be a drummer. And well, we've got too many drummers, and so you can't come in. So I wanted to be an architect, and the guidance counselor in my junior year of school said, well, you know, that takes 6 years of college. You got all this stuff about math to do, and you probably won't do that. You know, I said, well, okay. So I just believed them when they told me all this stuff.
Okay.
I had been writing songs in the study hall, just as something to do besides whatever work they were supposed to be doing. And of course, everything I was trying to sound like Hank Williams. I was just engaged so much with Your Cheating Heart, that movie.
Okay.
And it was out at that time, and I thought music always came to me anyway. It was real deep in me, as I'm sure it is in a lot of people. But so I started writing songs, and then in my senior year, day after Christmas, I bought a little guitar up on Beale Street and started playing the music. So a couple of years later, I could put those words, not those words I'd written, probably should have, but I put, you know, just making up songs and trying to get something somewhere like that. And I was just all consumed with it. So after high school, I took off.
What year did you graduate, Keith?
66.
66.
Yeah.
Okay. And so until you bought that guitar, you were writing lyrics?
Yeah, just the lyrics. The melodies were in my head. I had no way of conveying them. But anyway, you know, this is how it began. But it really, you know, I got my first cover in 1967, and that's when the Gentrys did a little song of mine on one of their singles they had out. It turned out to be the B-side. I was disappointed. I forgot all about there was two sides to a record. They cut a song. I thought, I'm a star.
What was the song?
It's called Silky.
Okay.
The record didn't do anywhere. The A-side was a really good record Don Nix wrote. But they you know, this at that point, the Gentrys couldn't get anything else going on. They were just, I guess.
Because Keep On Dancing had been a big hit.
Huge, yeah. Went to number 4 nationally, and they were all in high school.
Right.
But they couldn't follow it up with anything that had that kind of success. And like so many other bands and solo artists that come along, if they're too young or too whatever,
Right.
it just doesn't work. Mainly all that stuff is really management and how much the record company gets involved.
Keith, how did you get a cut by them? Where were you actually working or writing? Were you writing for someone or just on your own?
No, we all went to the same school. Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to Treadwell, and there was a lot of music at Treadwell.
Okay.
And tons everywhere else. Music is just an incubator for music.
Okay. What became the first real cut then, or thing breakthrough for you?
Let's see. I got a lot of other cuts, along the way, but the one that did the most was when Buffett did Coast of Marseille. That sort of I went from being a songwriter guy to being a songwriter guy.
Okay.
And that was many years later. That was in 1978 when that came out.
Wow. What kept you doing this? That's a pretty good stretch.
I was a performer.
Okay.
And I tried out in August of '68. I tried out for the Holiday Inn lounge circuit, this based in.
Yeah.
They put me on that thing. And I said it was '67. And so '68 was my first real gig. They flew me to Charleston, South Carolina, and back, by the way. And I stayed 2 weeks there playing at the Holiday Inn and made $150 a week. And they paid for all my room and board and all that stuff. So I said to myself, I like show business.
Show business is good. Okay. Got a paying gig, check clears, and everything else. That's good.
Yeah, and transportation, everything. So,
but you kept writing during all this.
I was beginning to write in earnest. I'd already written. There was a guy named, my first manager was Dusty Rhodes, who had a TV show in Memphis called The Rhodes Show on Saturday afternoon. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Right. The Rhodes family.
Back in the early '60s and the middle '60s and all through that. Right. And it was followed by, Porter Wagner and
Spec Rhodes came out of that family, right?
Oh, yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
Dusty became my manager, took me up to Nashville and did like 12, I recorded 12 demos. And one of those that the Wilburn Brothers did at around, a year or so later, was Surefire was the publishing company that took those songs. And I just kept doing it. I don't know how it all worked for me. When I moved to New York City at the end of '68, because I played Buffalo, New York all summer long at this Holiday Inn right up close to the Niagara Falls. And I went to at the end of that, I heard about the college coffee house circuit, and I thought that would be better for me. Intellectuals listening to my music in college. So that I went there and I did that for 6 years, playing that circuit.
In New York, okay.
Out of New York. I moved to New York City after I got on that thing. I moved from Memphis up to New York City and stayed there till '73. When I started bouncing around again, I wound up back in Memphis eventually.
Wow. We're talking with Keith Sykes. We're going to continue this conversation. This is Dialogue, special edition with Willie X Evans, Nashville and Parts Unknown, here at E+ TV 6.
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool.
To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to Dialogue at E+ TV 6 as we continue a conversation. Thanks to Willie X Evans, Nashville and Parts Unknown, we call these. We're talking to Keith Sykes. in Memphis, Tennessee. We'll get into that story in just a moment. So when we leave you, you're in New York and you start doing this coffee circuit and all this other stuff. And so that's a big change to go from Memphis to New York.
Well, I was around a couple of years before then. I come back to Memphis, for a little bit.
Right.
And last time I came back in, well, actually, I took an apartment in New York, in Memphis, even though I was bouncing around everywhere.
Oh, wow.
So when I got that thing in New York, I moved on up to New York and spent, the next 5 years up there. And that's where I met so many people who I'm still friends with. Chris Christopherson, John Prine, John, died last year, but so many, and Jerry Jeff Walker especially was really great to me. And I met a lot of people through him, and just a lot of songwriters, a lot of artists, became friends with people that I still know today.
Right. Keith, when you mention all these names, because we associate them with Texas or Florida or somewhere else, we don't think about them in New York, but that's all part of that scene then at that time.
Sure was. Back in those days, New York was still, a hotbed of, earthy type music. And it all eventually scattered out to the four winds. A lot of people went to Los Angeles. A lot of people went to Nashville. But it was all, coming from, I guess, everybody goes to New York to play and do media stuff, because it's
Right.
such a huge center in the United States. So you just meet those people just being up in New York.
You leave New York to go back to Memphis for what reason?
Well, I left New York I moved to Austin, Texas for 7 or 8 months there. Went back to Key West, stayed there a pretty good while, 3 or 4 months. Went to Nashville, stayed a whopping week. Came to Memphis. I was driving to Los Angeles. I came through Memphis and stayed with a friend for a couple of weeks. And I saw this girl I'd had a crush on since, honestly, the 4th grade. I never said anything to her, but I always thought she was pretty. And saw her at a place, and we got to talking, and we've been together ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why did she decide to do that?
Why did she?
Why did she decide to do that?
Somewhere along the line, she got her neurons crossed.
Were her parents still alive? She had to take you home and introduce you to them, or do they know you?
They're not still alive, but I got to know them, and they were great people.
Well, because sometimes your daughter brings home a songwriter. It's like, we need to talk, hon, before this goes any further. All right, wow. All right.
That's true.
You got this note on the on Beale Street. And like I said, how did that come about after all these years?
Well, all these years is the key thing. I think if you just stay around long enough, they go, well, we probably ought to give that guy a note. Been here since before electricity. So, it was very much an honor to me, and to be on the up and down Beale Street there, a historic place in the whole wide world, and be seen in the same sidewalk as Elvis and Carl and all those people. Anyway, it just was a very, very wonderful time.
You say
2016 that happened.
You said, because your material's been recorded by many different people, and I guess it's that outgrowth of just those contacts and whatever happens in this life, where you've continued to pursue this. You can't peg Keith Sykes, really. I don't think.
Well, I've enjoyed and still do a lot of different kinds of music. It all starts with I guess country music would be the first music, because that's the first stuff I heard in Kentucky. But you listen, the radio back then was just generous with who they played in a way. That was called broadcasting, as you well know.
Right.
And you got like Chuck Berry, followed by, a country hit, followed by a soul or pop or whatever kind of hit. You got everything. And so you could just listen to one station or those kinds of stations and hear the top of all the other charts, and I didn't know that, but that's just what it was.
Yeah.
I thought everybody thought Almost Persuaded was a huge record. Maybe it was, I don't know. You'd hear the Beatles and then Almost Persuaded, just that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Is there any way to categorize you? And I wouldn't know what it would be.
I just lump me into just call it singer-songwriter, because that's just such a catch-all. But, I've enjoyed blues music my whole life long, rock and roll, rock, pop, country, and jazz, and classical. I can't think of a music I've never listened. I don't know what to sing. These are really striking sometimes. They stick in your head and they've lived centuries. So that, it's good stuff there. But my main stuff would probably just be, blues, country, folk music, rock and roll, all that kind of stuff, pop music.
You say the Buffett connection became a real breakthrough for you.
Well, in terms of numbers, I got a lot of cuts before then, but man, that record sold 1 million copies in about a month or two. And that's like, wow. And I had 2 songs on the album. So that worked really well for me. It's establishing me as a writer. And like I say, that song, Costa Marseille, people have come ever since that time. People have come up to me and said, that's my favorite, Buffett song, or that's my favorite ballad song, or that's just a wonderful song. I mean, and Jimmy used to say, he wrote this in a brief moment of sanity. But it just came to me, and I've enjoyed the success from it. But it's a point of pride too to put something together that so many people like.
Were you writing for him? Were y'all working on a project together, or did that song come independently of that? Or?
Not those 2 songs. I had done a record the year before called "The Way That I Feel," an album, and he got a copy of that, and he just called me up one day and says, I'm going to do Costa Marseille. He called me a little while after and he says, you got anything else? And I said, well, I really like Last Line, and he cut that too. So they're both on the Son of a Sailor album.
So he found the song on his own.
Well, we traded albums. He played at Ellis Auditorium, and after the show, I brought a copy of my record in case, we got together. I said, man, I got an album. He said, I'll trade you. So he gave me a copy of Changes and Latitudes, and I gave him a copy of The Way That I Feel, which is my album.
Wow.
But we had met earlier, years earlier than that, probably, I guess, 71 or 2 down in Key West.
Okay.
And just became sort of instant friends, and we knew each other through George F. Walker.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. Because that album totally changed his career.
Oh man, it did. Yeah. I mean, he had a big following after Come Monday, because that was a pop hit,
right.
Like a top 10 pop hit, and really sort of established him where he could tour and get a band together and all that stuff like that. So
Norva Putnam has been a guest of ours and produced that album, and so it was just coming together of so many different elements, because he said Jimmy was wanting to work with his band in the studio, and he said those guys in Nashville we're not going to allow that. We're not going to allow that, right? And so they pitched it to Norva, and they went to Florida, I guess, and cut all that.
Went to Miami and cut it, and boy, did it work.
Yeah, it's true, and inadvertently opened another door for Keith Sykes. When we come back in this conversation, Keith is back in Memphis at a legendary studio, and we're going to talk about that as we continue this dialogue. Nashville and Parts Unknown, Willie X Evans with us here at E+TVC.
What this place needs is better graduation rates.
What this place needs is less childhood obesity.
What this place needs is free help with taxes.
What this place needs is healthy breakfast.
What this place needs is fitness programs for kids.
What this place needs is early readers.
What this place needs is mentors for teens.
What this place needs is people to join us. What this place needs is you. To donate or volunteer, go to unitedway.org.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Welcome back to Dialogue at E+TV6. Willie X Evans joining us, Nashville and Parts Unknown, with our special guest, Keith Sykes. And we're getting to the other side of the business, Willie, because, Keith has now become a a real businessman here.
Yeah, well deserved. Yeah, it's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah, that
go from a traveling songwriter to running the studio.
Running a studio, and so Willie and I are trying to mooch our way into a trip to Memphis to visit this legendary place. Keith, when did you find out about Art and Studios back in your life?
Well, I was friends with Alex Chilton. Alex lived the floor below me in New York City. Alex was a lead singer of the Box Tops. Of course, they're from Memphis, you know.
Right.
And I was coming through with a buddy of mine who I just heard a little snippet about him today on the radio. His name is Gary White. He's one of my very best friends in New York, and he's still one of my best friends. He moved to California. But he had a hit on Ronstadt called Long, Long Time. And so they left New York and moved to LA and took me with them on the trip out. And so we stopped in Memphis, and Alex took us over to, I'd been to Ardent. Ardent is where we got my first cut. That's where the Gentry's recorded.
You were recording, okay.
Yeah. So I'd been to the Ardent over on National, just the little studio they had several times. When they moved here, Alex brought me over here and showed me the studio. And that's the first time I'd known about Ardent since they did my song there. You know, he opened it in '66 on National Avenue, and so that was '67. So the next year I got a cut there. You know, my first cut.
Okay. Down through the years, I mean, there've been a stunning number of people that have come through there.
Incredible amount. Yeah, it's been open going on 60 years, so you don't get to stay open that long unless you do something right.
How did it come about for you to take over that operation?
My wife works for Betty Fry, who was the wife of John Fry, the founder.
Okay.
And she kept asking me to come in and manage it. And everything was going for me well out on the road. I'm going, well, I don't want to do that. I want to do what I'm doing. But every time I was home, I'd hear her on the phone up to 1, 2 in the morning talking to Betty about this, that, and the other. And I'd overhear this snippets of the conversation going, man, I could fix that in 10 minutes. Matter of fact, make it 10 seconds, And so finally, I was, in 2018, I was writing songs down in the place I go to in Texas, Port Aransas, Texas, to write songs every year. And she was asking me again, and I finally said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I had lots of gigs booked that year, but I said, if I can finish out my gigs that I've got booked and come in there and work, and just settle in and get my feet, get myself situated, I'll go ahead and do it. And so I did that, and that 2018, the 9 months I was there went well, and I thought, well, I'm going to stay and do this. And so I didn't really book much after that. And so I devoted since 2018 all my time here, and we were just ready to come out and have our big grand reopening, if you want to call that. But just we'd done fixed a lot of things. There was tons of maintenance that needed to be done. The place was just kind of let go. The roof leaked. that's. John Prine wouldn't have the roof leaking. I didn't think it would. So anyway, we just got all kinds of stuff like that done. We were ready to be open again, to reopen or just announce, our upgrades and stuff that we'd done. We'd upgraded equipment and all this kind of stuff when the pandemic hit. So we've just been kind of like on hold since then, like so many people have in the music business. But we still do things every day here to help the place look better and just run better. So when we do have clients coming back in, it'll be a top-notch, world-class studio like it always was.
So you're getting ready. So odd time to be in this and to getting off the road and everything else, making that change. But getting on the business side of the business that's a big step.
Well, now I've been in the publishing business for a long time. I started my company in 1975, so I'm not completely. Don't know what's going on there. I've always kept up with it, and especially on the publishing side of things.
Yeah. Okay.
But to run this kind of business, that's what I told her. I said, I'm not going to, one of the things I'm not going to fool with the money. We're going to have to let the bookkeeping still be the bookkeeping. I'm not going to get involved with any of that.
All right.
But I know equipment. I had my own studio for 13 years. I understand about equipment. I enjoy being around. I'm a gearhead, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So I just saw it was just it's just a natural. It was a good fit for me for my experience of how I've been in the music business and being around studios since I can remember. It was just a good fit for me.
Do you want to bring the artistic touch then, I guess, to this? I mean, so you'll be involved, I guess, still in the creative process.
Well, on my stuff that I do, I've got a little record label, KSME Records. We got a new single out that just came out last Friday. Hint, hint. If you guys wanted to maybe play it on your radio station.
What? Go ahead and put the plug in.
Okay, it's a group duo called Queen's Bluff. 2 girls from here in town sing like crazy. This first song is called "Hey World," and it's a good opening salvo for us. Mandy Thomas is the singer of that one. Angela Burton is the other singer. They've been a duo for years, and I think they went to high school together. They've known each other so long, so they don't even have to. Who's going to take what part? They just start singing, and it just sounds great.
Queen's Bluff. Okay.
Sorry, fellas, I'm going to.
That's all right. So it's Queen's Bluff is the name of the group.
Queen's Bluff, yeah.
Okay.
It's not the Queen's Bluff, it's just Queens, no apostrophe there.
Okay.
Queen's Bluff. Okay. And man, Hey World, it's really, it's just started off with a bang. You ought to see the comments I've got on Facebook about just the performance this girl is giving in this song. But so I've got that. And I've got, of course, my publishing stuff and those kind of things that I can do, especially since we're not open. I've got plenty of time to do it.
Okay.
But when we do get open, the way things are running now with the studio, it's just, I'm kind of like, I'm the chief manager. So I don't have to be involved in every single decision that comes along, as long as I know that my managers are working good.
Right.
I know that the studio's working good. And they come to me and ask me just about everything. And in turn, I'll go to the owner and run any major thing by her. The day-to-day, not so much, but any major things we do, of course, run by the owner.
Keith, coming out of COVID and everything else with the industry, you know, how is it? Are you getting inquiries? People interested in coming back? People getting ready to resume work?
We get a few, but the owner's pretty set on let's let this thing ride out. So I imagine it's going to be the fall before we really have anybody coming back in.
Okay.
And that's if things go like they're supposed to go. All of us have had both of our, shots and we're all good to go. But
yeah, we're all going through that and, trying to be careful and yet trying to continue to live. And it's a challenge.
Yeah, well, it's imperative to go ahead and live, I'd say.
Yeah. It certainly is the case. Well, Keith, it's been a real delight to have this opportunity to talk with you. And our thanks to Willie X Evans for setting this up. And we do want to come down and see the studio.
Yeah, I wish you would. Just call me anytime and I'll take you through the whole thing.
All right. It's just a part of the legacy of Memphis, Tennessee. And I hope Memphis, Memphis had such an up and down history with music but Chip Smallman and so many great people have come through there. I hate that we lost the old sound studios over there on Thomas.
The fathers at that time didn't understand how much of a deal that was. I mean, when Stax came back through no fault of their own, I think, they showed the way. Like, we've really got something here we should exploit.
Yeah, sure is. Wow. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's a magic. Memphis, Tennessee, still a magic place. Keith, thanks a lot for the time.
Appreciate you having me.
Appreciate it so very much. And thanks to Willie X Evans. Thanks to you for being with us. Stay with us here at E+ TV 6 because this is the place where the dialogue continues.
When I first saw Turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.